Live.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the House Assault Book Club for March. And we read Chain of Gold this month by Cassandra Clare. I haven't talked to humans in like 2 weeks. Cassandra Clare. And we're going to get started by just going around and introducing ourselves and then briefly saying what we rated this book. So I'll start. My name is Marines. My channel is My Name is Marines. And I give this 2 out of 5 stars.
I'll go next. So I'm Sam from Thoughts on Tomes. Hi. And I gave this 3.75 out of 5 stars.
Hi, I'm Paige from Minimal Bookie. It was a 4, and then it dragged on and became a 3 for me.
Hi, I'm Connor. My channel is Connor O'Brien, and I also gave this book a 3 stars. I literally just finished it like 2 seconds ago.
I'm Jordan from the channel The Jordan Journals, and I also finished it like 5 minutes ago. So I think right now maybe like a 3.5 to 4 where I'm sitting.
I'm Kayla from Bookadoodles, and I also gave this 3 to 4 stars. Somewhere there. I didn't rate it yet.
I really didn't like this. But I tried my best not to be a killjoy here because who am I to say what entertains people in the middle of a pandemic? But I kind of wanted to go back and just hear a little bit more about like whether, well, obviously you guys all liked it, but like what about this book appealed to you, what you liked it, and then since it's 95% characters, we'll jump into the characters after that and talk about all of them. But we'll start with why did you like this book? Like what appealed about it to you?
So I've talked about this in the group chat because we've been kind of talking about it a little bit because Mari's been struggling so much, so she needs like venting. But for me, these books, I've only read The Infernal Devices besides this, and that's all I'm ever going to do. But these books are just like a trashy CW TV show. Everyone's in love, everyone's pretty, there's no plot. Or the plot like doesn't matter. It's just kind of to push the characters together. And honestly, that's all I want out of these books. Like if there was a plot to these books, I wouldn't read them because the plot might scare me since there's demons. So I'm like, I'm glad there's no plot because otherwise I wouldn't read you. But otherwise it's just them going to parties and making kissy faces and having angst. And that's fine with me. So the reason I gave it a lower, like I was kind of at a 4, I think, kind of like Paige for a while. And then it's too fucking long. Like it's absolutely too long of a book. It needs editing hardcore. So yeah, when we got to the end and then I knew there was like 100 more pages left, I'm like, oh shit, here we go, Cassie. So that was when I was like, I'm over it because we can be done way sooner.
Yeah. I basically, when I was texting my friend about it, I said, give me the angsty romance, forget about the plot. So I was literally just there for the characters to see who liked who and like all the angst and the pining. It was just that. Those are my favorite parts.
Like Sam, I've read The Infernal Devices and then I read the original Mortal Instruments, like the 6 of them. And I haven't read anything past that. And I don't know if I'm going to, but I wanted to pick this up because I do know all of the parents of the characters. And while reading it, I did end up finding that I kept enjoying the parents more than the actual characters that we were following, which was interesting. I was more invested in them than the kids, but I agree. I think it just went on for so long and not enough happened. Sorry, the dogs are walking around.
Never apologize for the dogs.
Not enough happened to like keep me like super engaged with it. I started this book, I think, first out of anyone, and I was the last one to finish. And it never takes me that long to finish anything. So, I mean, I enjoyed it enough, but it didn't really hold my attention.
Yeah, like everyone else said, I only really read Cassie Clare for the angsty romance. Like that is where she thrives, is the angsty romance and the characters. There is usually not a plot. Every single one of her books ends like 100 pages later than it should. So I knew all these things going into it, and I just wanted the kissy faces and romance, and that was what I needed in this time of life. So I was having a good time.
And I mean, I read all of the series except for the short stories. So I've been here since like 2008. So it's been a long time. But as like her writing progresses, it gets longer and longer. And like I had a problem with the Dark Artifices because it was just way too long. And this book actually was shorter, but at the same time, like the beginning and the end just dragged for me. The middle, like 400 pages was where it was at. I just like the angst, obviously. Like I waited 300 pages for that whispering room scene.
Real.
Yeah, because she posted a picture of it on Instagram, and I was like, "Where's the scene?"
Connor, though, it was almost distracting to have Tessa, Will, and Jem like throughout the book, because like I was like, my children, like my babies. Especially the scene when like, well, we'll talk about it later, but like when Will lost his parents and they all like cried together. Just like, so, and also to see Will happy, because he wasn't happy at all.
Oh.
And all devices, I like that a lot. And I don't know, I'm just here because I'm attached to this world, and I waited like 400 pages to see Magnus because he's in every book, and I don't know, sorry. I just
don't apologize.
I'm like back to this series. So.
Well, I've also waited. I remember when this was just like a blip of a idea on Tumblr, and that was like, I don't know, 7 years ago. And so I've waited so long for this.
So the first 100 pages were pretty near terrible. They were worse written than the other stuff. It settles down and it gets better, but also it was literally just her telling me names. Literally just like, and not even like in a way.
I have a chart. Do you need my chart?
Yes.
I almost asked you for it.
Most of the people
I
don't
also have a chart. Could have shared it.
I had to like search like family tree, because it wasn't enough that she was introducing us to new characters. It was like someone would walk in the room and be like, "Oh, that's such and such. Her cousins was such and such. Her mother was this person, and her father was this person from the long line." And I'm like, I don't fucking care. So that was the first 100 pages. The middle settled down and it was better. And I disagree that the first 100 pages did not have a plot. This has a plot. It's not just angsty romance. It tries to plot at you, and whether or not that's successful or you care about it, I don't know. That's like a different story. But it did have like a thing we were investigating and going along with.
Yeah,
so
like no one cares.
no, okay, I get it.
Like it's literally to just like push people together to kiss. To kiss.
So put it in there. So I fell asleep at some point while I was listening to some pages in the middle. It didn't matter. I think I might have missed like 3 or 4 chapters. Didn't matter. Kept reading. It was fine. And then the last 100 pages were absolutely useless. So
I think something like we all kind of touched on it a bit, but I think something that made this harder for me than like the Infernal Devices was the sheer amount of characters, and she wants them all to be main characters, and I'm like, bro, they don't all need to be main characters. Like they really don't. So like, yes, the main ones really are like James, Cordelia, and maybe like Lucy, but she really does want all of them to be main characters, and I'm like, correct. You just need to, like, I do like a lot of them, but you just need to chill. Like
12 main characters. Like I counted at one point, and I'm like, we're following literally like double-digit characters, and that was the problem I had with the Dark Artifices, because it was just sheer amount of characters. Like by the third book, it was just, and it's like the same thing here, and it's just like overwhelming a little bit. And going back to the family tree, I literally got my Clockwork Princess cover, and like put it on
put it next to my bed.
I'm like, I need to refer to this like the Bible. So yeah,
I think it would have been
overwhelming.
I think it would have been a lot easier to like digest all of these characters if they were introduced slower, and then like they became important as everything was happening. So if we just started off with James, Cordelia, and like Lucy, and then the cast grew over time, it would have been a lot easier to digest. But she was like, here's 18 characters that you need to care about all at the same time, and they're also all related, and their parents are best friends, and they have done a lot of
and they're all cousins.
Right. Yeah. They're all cousins.
It's so funny because it's not like our cousin. It was be like, that's that person's cousin.
There are 2 lines that aren't cousins.
Right,
Yeah.
but
They're cousins with the middle one.
Like each other. So just know that if they're not cousins, they're dating. Like that's all.
And even then, sometimes.
The thing is that I think one of the things that kept this from being like, this is not a 1-star book for me. Like, this isn't Twilight. You know, this is fine compared. This is not Twilight. This is like right here. But the thing that kept it being like, okay, it was like the friendship group and the dynamic between all of them and that whole idea. But because she has so many characters here, she can't fully flesh all of them out. Yeah. And I mean, I know that's not like, this is not supposed to be like the deepest thing, but even in CW shows, you have like the archetypes of like the mean girl, this one, where they feel like very strong certain things. There's a scene in here where Cordelia tells James, I'm going to get the names so wrong because there's too many of them, but Cordelia tells James, like, you're the leader. And then the next scene, he's like, I'm the leader. Would not have known that unless Cordelia said it. Apparently, you didn't either.
Someone said in the comments about all the nicknames, like how Cordelia is also Daisy and Layla.
Yeah.
And then Christopher is also Kit.
Yeah.
And Matthew and Matt.
Yeah. The Daisy thing fucked me up because when I first started reading it, I thought Daisy was Grace. So I was like, Daisy's coming, and then I was like, wait, these are different girls, and like, like I had to that's when I started the chart because I had to know who liked who and who didn't like one back and everything, and it helped. It helps me.
I 100% until the last like 100 pages of this book, I thought Christopher and Charles were the same character.
Oh no!
I looked at like a family tree. I knew that Christopher ends up with Charles.
Don't tell me.
No, sorry. Charles is the one who's engaged to Grace.
Yes.
So I had like found that out before I knew. But then I was like, oh no, Christopher and Grace. And I was like, wait, no, they're two different people.
But also, like, Charles and Christopher have completely different personalities. So I'm really not sure.
Charles reminded me of Percy.
Yes.
From Harry Potter.
Yep.
Yes.
He even had red hair and everything.
Okay, so wait, we got ahead of ourselves. But yes, there are millions of characters. I got the sense while I was reading too that like Cassandra Clare just also loves all of these characters. Like she's written herself. She's written herself.
Barbara and Eugenia.
10 Lightwoods. She had to get rid of one of them.
Well, and Eugenia is like disgraced or something.
Drama.
Oh, that's right. But keep going, buddy. Sorry.
Sorry. Characters except for Barbara. So she's like written herself really deep into the series to the point like she can't mention like a background character without having their full family tree. But anyways, I digress. We're gonna go back up and start with like our mainish characters, and I think that is definitely James. But then to talk about James, we talk about Cordelia, and then probably also Grace and that whole dynamic. So, how did you guys feel about them? Favorite, least favorite parts?
Every time Grace came on the page, I was like, this bitch.
I disliked her so much.
Especially like the end scene, like how that ended. I'm like, this bitch is going to put this bracelet on because they left them in the room together. I'm like, I can't take it. But anyway, I don't like Grace at all, obviously. Nope. She just like manipulative. And I don't know if they're going for like a redeeming arc with her. I hope not, because sometimes I just want villains to be villains. I don't know.
I don't think she's the villain though. Like
Tatiana is the villain.
So I think she's gonna get a redemption arc. I don't really care. I don't really want her to, but like I think she keeps saying stuff like, "You don't understand what I need to do," and she doesn't like James, and she's being forced to like put the bracelet on him because she like took it off. So I think she's gonna get a redemption arc.
She's adopted too, so like there's a whole story arc behind like how that happened and who her real family is. So there's gonna be more to that.
They said who she came.
She's a Cartwright.
She's gonna end up dying.
Whatever that means.
She's gonna die. She's gonna die. She's gonna redeem herself as she's dying.
Sacrifice.
I'm okay with those kinds. Those kind of like death redemption. Those are fine. Yeah, I think that she's gonna have that happen because she's not the main villain. It's Tatiana, who's also like a horrible. Whatever. We're getting sorry. So yeah, I didn't like Grace, but I'm also like, well, we're gonna get a redemption arc probably. I think the main character is Cordelia of this book personally.
She's on the cover.
She's on the cover, and I think that it all kind of rolled back to her continuously. Yeah, her hair is like really pretty. Good for her.
It is gorgeous.
I liked Cordelia a lot.
Yeah.
Like, Cordelia, I think, was my main favorite character of the three mains. James was fine, but I don't. So I know Kayla loves Will Herondale. I never really got on with Will Herondale, so I'm kind of like, James, like just his stuff a bit. I'm like, you're a Herondale, and I get it. You guys are all like this, but like, calm down. So there's a little bit of that, but I liked him more than I liked Will in the Infernal Devices first two books. I will say that. So he was okay, and then Lucy had. I kind of went back and forth with her because I'm like, you're in love with the ghost. Like, I'm just not. I can't really.
She feels very young and like naive.
No. Yes.
Yeah.
Which I think she's supposed to.
Yeah, and her personality type, like, I couldn't quite get a read on, because sometimes she does feel very immature, and then she has moments where she's very like perceptive, and I get people do that, but I'm like, I don't know how you're supposed to be. Like, I can't quite figure it out, because she's supposed to be the same age as Cordelia.
Which I never got that vibe. Like, when they said they were supposed to be like Parabatai, I was like, but she's so much younger and like not at the same maturity level.
Right.
And I also got really hard Felicity Montagu vibes from her, from like the Gentleman's Guide, Vice and Virtue. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, the sister of that book. But like, I don't know. I like that she's a writer though. That's cool.
So if you look at the family tree, Lucy is like a lot younger than James, and I think Cassie aged her up when they wrote this book. So maybe like that's why she feels a little off, because she was originally, there's a larger age gap between them. And so yeah,
we were, I don't know if I was talking to Kayla separately about this or we were talking about it in the group chat, but there's a family tree that is going to change, because she didn't originally, like, she probably wasn't originally going to write this series. So the family tree that's in Clockwork Princess is not necessarily going to be correct at the end of this book, or at the end of this series, which is a little confusing too, because it's just like,
it's like the whole tree from like
all the way through,
grandparents
right?
down to the main characters of the Dark Artifices. So for her to change that whole tree.
The question here is like, the Dark Artifices is all Blackthorns, and right now we only have Grace and Tatiana. So like,
we're gonna have Jessie.
Jesse's gonna come back.
Jessie.
Lucy will do whatever she has to do.
That ghost romance is gonna turn into a 3D romance.
Real romance.
As soon as I saw like Lucy and Jesse thing, I was like, oh, Connor's gonna love this because he loved Muse of Nightmares so much.
I mean, I was not a fan.
The thing with Lucy,
It is weird.
The way they describe Jesse makes him sound like young Snape. Like, he just has long, straight, stringy. They don't say stringy, but I pictured a stringy hair. And so it's like, he doesn't sound that cute, girl. Like, he kind of like, I'm not getting it. So is he the one in the front cover? Does everyone have the art in their cover?
No.
I
Damn
don't know.
it. I don't have mine with me. The hardcover has like an art piece, and there's two characters in picture frames, and I think one's him, and maybe the other one's Grace, but I can't tell. There's a woman with white hair, and then there's this guy that has like kind of longer hair. I should get one down in the basement. So I can't. But I was looking at that and being like, okay, who's who in the like art as well, because it's not labeled.
I actually really enjoyed Cordelia too. I thought that like she was a more like the best character. She felt fully realized. I understood her feelings. Like, I understood where she was coming from. James was whatever, but I was dying with the entire Grace and Tatiana thing, especially because it was like literally the whole thing is that like they lived in a mansion next to us, but it was shadowy. And they also have like this whole history where people know that their family has done like bad things or whatever. But even with Grace, it was like she came to him with like her wraith-like hands. Right? I don't know. It was so telegraphed. I don't know that it was supposed to not be telegraphed, but the whole time, it didn't really feel like a true angsty love triangle to me, because Grace is so nothing. She's so nothing in this whole thing that it just was more of like a frustrating, like, I don't know, like a gnat in your way. Like, and you're like, just like Cordelia and James B.
Right. Yeah, it is a very like weird obstacle. I mean, I don't know. I don't like it as an angsty love triangle, because I'm kind of like, okay, there's not even a love triangle like you're saying, because it's a forced thing that Grace doesn't even want to have a part with, and then he becomes so obsessed, and you're just like, stop. So and then the Herondales just have a history of like listening to stuff about themselves. Like his whole thing is like, Herondale's only loved once, so I have to love Grace. And I'm like, your dad did the same dumb shit where he just like makes shit up in his head and then it ruins his life for 2 books. So can you calm down? So yeah, it just gets like annoying with that whole thing. But yeah, their love triangle is not one that I liked because I'm like, well, he's going to be with Cordelia.
I have read somewhere, or I think heard somewhere, that Grace might be like a siren, or have like siren powers.
Yeah,
like she could be manipulating him into a relationship. Right. Yeah,
because everyone's like, she's real plain, and then she like touches them, and they're like, she's beautiful. You know, like, it is kind of interesting.
I definitely got like fae vibes from her.
I think she might have like some like fae powers or something.
Anytime somebody has like translucent hair.
Silver white hair.
Tatiana thing, and like, so the Tatiana Grace thing is like the tie into Great Expectations, and the fact that they just go over how like disgusting Tatiana looks at all times, and that their house was like a fire hazard. I'm like, guys, it's like that's like so over the top. Like, there's dust everywhere. Like, no one has dusted or swept in forever. It's like, what?
And no one questions this. No one's like, "Are you okay? Like, what's
right?"
Especially because, jumping to Tatiana, she's like the main, I guess, villain. Obviously, there are all the demons and stuff that are throughout the story, but it all gets tied back to Tatiana. And so at the end, when everybody like she's like tried or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, she's heartbroken over the loss of her son," I'm like, guys, that happened how many years ago?
Right.
She's been living in this dusty, crusty mansion the whole time, and you're just now realizing that something is wrong, and it's because she like she participated in the murder of lots of people, and you guys are like, "Aw, your son." I don't know. It was weird.
I feel like the villains, again, I've only read the Infernal Devices, but the villain here feels so much the same as the Infernal Devices villain, because the Infernal Devices villain, for those that haven't read it, is just like out to kill Shadowhunters too. Like, they have this big thing where they're like, Shadowhunters wronged me. One person wronged me, but now I'm killing all of you. And this is like what they do, and they're just like a not efficient villain, and they're just kind of there not doing a good job at all being a villain. And so I'm just kind of like already bored with her because the same thing happened in the Infernal Devices. So again, I'm just like, I'm not here for the villain. I'm not here for the plot. I'm just here for everyone to kiss.
There wasn't even that much kissing in this.
I know. Damn it. There's going to be a lot of kissing in book 2. Like,
there has to be.
And then book 3
They're
is going to be like
together.
all the kissing.
This is such an investment for like.
This is just what has to happen. So what about some of the other like side? I mean, there's so many side characters that are
Matthew.
main.
Yeah, Matthew was my other favorite.
Matthew. I feel like Matthew is like the Will replacement for this book.
Did anybody read the short stories?
No, not yet.
Like his whole backstory of like why he is the way he is. It's a short story from the Ghost of Shadow Market.
Someone said that. I'm going to put that up on the screen. About Cassie says you don't have to read the short stories, but actually
lies. Because I know the entire reason for why he is like drinking and why the whole thing, because it's a short story in her books.
Well, they kind of went over it a little bit. They're like, he committed murder. And it was someone he loved but doesn't know.
Probably
That's a loose description of what happened.
Exactly. But he thinks, because he's a Will character, he thinks that he did something horrible. That's unforgivable.
I mean, it's bad, but I wouldn't say it was that bad.
I spoiled myself because I was looking at those goddamn family trees, and so like I had like read about what he did, and it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But it was like with unintentional consequences. He did truly kill somebody that he loved and didn't.
There was no intent to.
Right.
Like he was not a murderer.
What I figured, like a lot of these characters that like hate themselves did something in her books that are like, it was horrible, but it's like you didn't even know what you were doing. Like, and then they
were kids.
They shut everybody out, and it's just like, I can't love anyone, don't be near me, don't touch me. Like, that's just are those in all of her books? Because it was definitely in the Infernal Devices.
A lot of miscommunication, like guilt that doesn't need to be felt kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. internalizing guilt all the time in every book.
Buddy.
The fact that nobody, I'm jumping backwards. The fact that nobody noticed this goddamn silver bracelet that basically has said, like, I'm enchanted on it.
Like even Magnus was right there. How did he not sense that?
And it's like boys are glittering in people's eyes. And like,
I think my favorite
at their engagement party, he's wearing this bracelet. I'm just like,
Yeah, that's
confused.
Magnus is like, something's afoot here. I should stay in London a little longer.
Yeah.
Driving on their drama.
life for so long.
I mean, everyone at least references it where they're like, oh, James has been so different. And I'm like, have you not noticed it's connected to Grace at all? Are we not going to? No? Okay.
Anyways, back to Matthew. I was like, oh, James, I can tell something is wrong. I really like Matthew's personality. I liked his relationship with James. He was like funny and he brought some of that, but he's also like tortured inside. So that was like a good balance. The only thing I wasn't sure about was him like being in love with everybody.
yeah.
They were insinuating at the end that he loved Cordelia, right?
There were sprinklings of that, but before he was into Lucy, but then they were like, well, it was just a childhood crush. But I don't know if they're going to do a Cordelia James Matthew love
I don't
triangle.
think they'll do a love triangle again after the Infernal Devices. I think that he just needs to focus on himself.
She just did one as well in Dark Artifices.
I feel like triangles are her thing, though. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if she did the Matthew thing. Like, I feel like she's done it in
We
book
already
2.
have one kind of, well, I wouldn't be, I'm not opposed to Matthew love triangle. To be honest.
I can see it being like during this year of like temporary marriage, like Cordelia turns to Matthew and he's really nice to her and actually interested in her. And then James is there.
Sounds like the Infernal Devices.
I mean, I loved the love triangle in the Infernal Devices, so like I'd be fine with that if we repeated it, but I'd rather let it be like a twist on it at least.
I read one that some people also got vibes that he has feelings for James too.
Well, that's what Magnus felt like. He was like, "Whoa, got that wrong."
No, because that is so close to the Infernal Devices that I'd be like, bro, like, come on, because like the Infernal Devices, they all should have dated. Like,
well, and then
at the same time.
Alec in the Mortal Instrument.
In the original series, it would be too close to that.
Right.
I think that it's not going to happen again because she already did it.
I just don't want to do it with the kids. I mean, with the kids, like, do you have to do it with the kids of the people that this already happened to, though? Like, at least with the Immortal Instruments, it's like hundreds of years later.
And there were multiple times in the book that something was happening and it would like mention like a demon or a thing that happened, and she would also be like, yes, like it happened last time. And I was like, Jesus, you didn't have to point it out to us. You're repeating a plot point.
Yeah.
Just let it, slide under the radar. Maybe we won't notice.
Somebody in the comments says that she said this love triangle is going to be something she's never done before.
Maybe they all end up dating. Maybe that'll be the twist.
Please.
OT3? No.
OT like 8. Anna's getting in there somewhere.
I love to talk about Anna because she's my other like.
I love Anna.
I had a feeling when I read the short stories, I'm like, Sam is going, because there's a story about Anna in the short stories. I'm like, Sam's going to love this character.
I want her to be around more than some of the other ones. I'm like, okay, can we focus on Anna? What's Anna doing? Is she in her like really bohemian apartment making out with people? Where is she?
That's exactly where she was.
Yes. Yeah. I want to see her doing that. Like, I'm just let me live her life with her.
I love their plot for like Hypatia Vex, and she was like, "Oh, I don't seduce twice," and they're like, "I didn't even know you seduced her once."
And she's like, "Well, yeah, love it." No, she's great, and her little like side romance thing, which apparently was probably also a short story with Ariadne.
Yeah.
Is that a short story?
I don't know if you can see it, but that's the art from the short story collection.
She looks great.
Yeah, and I saw that's like how it introduces the short story. I'm like, this is going to be up Sam's alley.
I was kind of in that useless last 100 pages, and it like that whole thing with Ariadne or whatever her name was.
Yeah.
I was kind of upset because I really liked Anna, but I didn't. Who's this bitch? I was like,
because she's so minor. Yeah, she's so minor. Because
she's been out of the book the whole time because she was cursed or whatever.
Right. I do wish there would have been more like a more main character for Anna to interact with. Because I also got vibes. I was like, are Cordelia and Anna going to hook up? Because being like, they're so pretty. She's so pretty. And I'm like, kiss? I'd be fine with that. Maybe because has she ever done a female, like one of the, like a female relationship with another part of a triangle like that?
No, I don't think so.
No, I think it's just been two guys.
That's new.
I don't want to kill your hope, but I'm going to say no.
Yeah, so we had Anna, and then what? Thomas, Alistair,
Christopher.
Talk about those. Those are the last three, right?
I think so.
So like,
my note.
Check your chart.
Yep.
When I got to the Paris chapter with Alistair and Thomas, I was like, oh, I'm doing this. And then we find out at the end, like how Alice, like what Alistair said and stuff. I don't know. I really liked Alistair's character. Like, I feel like he had some depth to him compared to like others. I don't know. I ship them, obviously.
I don't know.
Like, I don't know how I feel yet about Alistair, because he is kind of just like one of those douchey characters, but then you're like, but he has a reason because people bullied him, so he chose to be a bully. I'm like, I don't.
And
like
his dad, helping with his dad, taking care of his sister.
Yeah, I think he has potential for later on in the series.
I like his dynamic with Cordelia, like their relationship.
I usually am not like when a bully character comes around and they're like, but this is why he bullies. But because it was like almost a little racist and then people were being rude or mean to him, basically he's Persian or whatnot, and he's obviously having a lot of difficulty, like, you know, he dyes his hair because he doesn't want to have the dark hair, and there were things like that I was like, oh no, baby.
Yeah.
The one way that you can get me to like understand why a bully like is like reflecting or internalizing the way that he is. So I was like, okay, fine. I do not ship him with Thomas.
Oh, Charles is the one that
Charles can get lost.
Yeah, he's currently sort of dating. Thomas is the one that he should date.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Christopher is an entirely different character.
Christopher is his cousin.
Pattern of like triangles and rhombuses and all.
Yeah. I did like the Thomas archetype of being like, he's big, strong man, but he's real nice, soft cinnamon roll. I'm happy with that. I think that's cute.
I feel like Thomas deserves better than Alistair, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Alistair was like, oh, I'm being bullied. Let me say that you are a product of incest or whatever it was.
Right.
That's why you're so ugly. It's like, oh, well.
That was pretty rough.
You lost me there.
Yeah, exactly.
I did think it was sweet he dyed his hair back brown, though. That was nice.
I know. Yeah, baby.
All right. Any other characters? There were so many. I'm sure.
Chris.
I think that's Christopher, but I don't really have any feelings about Christopher.
I don't have any feelings about Christopher either. He's the Wyland of the series.
He was a person.
The Wyland of the series.
Wyland of the series, because he's just like the character that's like putting stuff together and no one really cares a lot, and he's kind of nerdy. I'm sorry, Wyland stands. He's boring.
Is Christopher the one that is like the inventor of the group or whatever? I love that anytime anything went wrong, they were like, oh, Christopher.
And then he was in the coma and they were like, no one's here to save us.
Right. There is always, that's a Cassie thing too, right? Because there's like Henry in the first series was like the inventor character. Does she do it in all of her series? I'm just going to ask you guys that, like, read them. Is there always an inventor?
I feel like there's not in the future.
No,
because it's Victorian and Edwardian when invention was a big deal.
Yeah.
We can talk about Magnus Bane.
Love that he was
all of the characters that come back and make an appearance here, but starting with Magnus Bane.
I waited so long for him. I was like, where is he? Where is he?
Literally. I was like, he's not, I don't think he's going to be in it. And then I was like, wait, there he is.
So in every series so far, he's walked in on the main couple having sex. So I wonder if it's going to happen here.
I mean, yeah. That's
really funny.
I never thought of that, but that's true.
He like knows and he's like running to the room. He's like, this is going to be so funny.
Creepy old man.
I love him.
Like he thrives off of drama. Like he just is there to like observe, just like the reader, kind of. Like I don't know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. When he was like, "Oh, they like, there's a love triangle. I'm staying." Like, let me call my cat.
Let me call for my cat.
He does very much feel that way, like an insert almost of like the audience, because just of his commentary and the way he's always like,
that it does make me feel like, again, having not read the later series, like it's sort of having him back here and really realizing how old he is and how much stuff he's seen makes me feel a little weird about his relationship with one of the characters in like present day. I'm like, oh, okay, we can't ignore the fact, like, even though you say that you're really old, we can't just like push that under the rug like we do with other like immortal romances.
Well, he knows his entire family too.
Yeah, because you see everything.
I kind of thought that they were doing like a Magnus Matthew thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then but I knew that Magnus ended up with somebody, but I've only read the first book, City of Bones. So I like did the whole Google thing of like the thing, and I saw who he actually ends up with in the future. And I had that same feeling of like, ew. Yeah. The character, but just thinking about like the time of it all and like interacting with his like future husband's legit ancestors.
Yeah, it is just kind of like, again, I don't find it like like I don't think he's a creepy character, like I don't but it's so weird to actually see a character be like, you know, I was friends with your parents, right? And now and it's like, okay, we get to see you interact with like the actual ancestor. That just is like a little odd, but I also like him being around all the time, so I'm like, yeah, come back.
So you guys talked a little bit about it already, but obviously Jem and Will and Tessa again throughout this story. How did you feel about their appearances, what they were doing, what they're up to, all of that jazz?
I thought it was interesting because if you finish the Infernal Devices, you know like what happens way later because there's like that epilogue. So seeing them interact while like they're all still there is kind of weird because you know things that happen later. I don't know. It was just like I know that this happens, so I'm not as invested in what you're doing now. But that's kind of weird. I don't know. It just seems so weird to me that things happen. Yeah,
later. You do know from the epilogue of the last book, Infernal Devices, of how things go down and like when certain people die and whatever. So that is kind of I only like them when they're like all. I mean, I like Tessa always, but like as a triangle, I like them when they're all together. So those moments are great. I'm not a huge Tessa and Will fan. I never really was. I preferred her with Jem more. So I'm kind of like, okay, I'm glad they're all happy because they're cute babies, but like, I don't really care about those romance scenes. But I actually found it weird that Jem is around so much because the last book in the Infernal Devices makes it seem like they don't see him. And I'm like, he's over like all the time.
Their personal
dinner.
Like he's here. And like, and the fact that they're referring to him as Jem too, Uncle when like Jem. He's like, they're not really supposed to. So I'm like, okay, but he's like around, which I guess makes it harder on them too. But I'm like, you guys made it seem like you hadn't seen him, and like he's over like every week.
He comes over for family dinner night,
right? Like he's hanging out with your kids, like, and your kids know him as like Jem, you know, like so it just that didn't land quite as well. Like I was glad to see him because I love all of them, but it was like he's not really supposed to be here in my opinion.
It does make what happens like way later at the end of the Infernal or the Dark Artifices a little weird as well.
Yeah.
Because like in those books, you see them together. You see Jem and Tessa together.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. But like,
we were all tiptoeing around, and Kayla's like, "This is what happened."
They get together.
Again, I haven't read the Dark Artifices, so I didn't get to see any of that stuff. But like in the end of the Clockwork Princess, when she's grieving and everything, it makes it seem like she has not seen Jem at all. Like that she sees him like once every 10 years is their like agreement. So it's like, but you see him all the time. Like you literally see him all the time. I mean, I guess was Tessa around when he was around? I'm not even sure, but like he's definitely around.
She's treating her kids,
right?
There's a short story where like about World War I or II, one of the world wars, that they decided to like go their separate ways. And they don't see each other for like a few decades. So,
okay. No more family dinners.
Yeah. No more family dinners. No.
So like in the World War.
Because Jem, I'm going to spoil this short story for you guys. Jem breaks the silent brother vows, and they almost get together, and so they decide to split and not see each other for several years. And then when he becomes Jem, then they get back together.
Wow.
I just thought from the epilogue, and again, I read it in like 2017, so maybe I'm forgetting things, but I thought in the epilogue that like he had just broken his silent brother vows, and then he was like, I'm here, let's be together. Like that's what I thought in my head.
Well, she also like retcons a ton of stuff too.
Yeah, so the problem with this is like when she develops more and more series, stuff in the past starts not to make sense anymore. So
the X-Men.
That's like the consequence of all this. But yeah.
Okay.
Just the fact that we're talking about the older characters this much just shows that like we were more invested in the older characters.
I personally wasn't. Like I did, like I liked seeing them, but like and again they're like 3 scenes or whatever together with the 3 of them, but like I did prefer, like I cared most about Cordelia.
Same. Yeah. I basically haven't read this since, like I haven't read the series with the 3 of them since like it first came out, so I feel like I recognized them, I recognized all the characters, but I wasn't invested anymore as much as Cordelia and everybody else could die. Cordelia is it for me in the series.
Can die. I feel like had they had one cute scene with like Will and Tessa, that would have been enough. Just because I think it's really sweet to see them like in love, and like the one where he's like, "Kids, I'm gonna kiss your mom." No, you always do. That's cute. It gives you good characterization. It gives you a sense of like what kind of family that they grew up in. But more than once, and it was like the whole thing where like again she was giving us entire genealogies for every character that entered in. Like it was too much. Like I understand why she's invested, and I understand that like there are fans that like came here to see some of that, but it just ended up kind of going on for too many scenes or
like
even
like in her description when they were like, oh, there's a balcony. Oh, Will and Tessa always love balconies. I'm like, I know they did, but I mean, you don't need to say it 5 times in this book.
Right. Yeah. There was too much of that, like reminders, or like the thing that got to me that was annoying was like the references to the Herondales hating ducks. I'm like, we get it.
So many.
Like the thing where there's like there's a crack in the ceiling that looks like a duck. I'm like, that's fucking stupid, Cassie. Take that out. Like I just stuff like that just really like the duck references were too much in this book. Taking off a half star for that.
That's why actually you gave it 3.75.
3.75.
A quarter star.
I mean, was it a quarter star for ducks? Maybe.
Anything else that we did not talk about?
We should probably talk about like the grandfather, like the demon grandfather.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like it. Ew, no. Ew.
I knew who it was immediately when she gave that long list of this
who they were,
demon of hell does this. I was like, it's gonna be that one right there. Exactly. Necromancy.
Shadows, thievery, stealing. Sounds like it's gonna fit.
See, meanwhile, maybe the reason I feel like this didn't have a plot was because anytime like a fight happened or anything with the Prince of Hell, I just like skipped the pages. Like I'm like, I'm not here like for this. One, because your girl's gonna be scared. I don't want to be scared. It's scary. And 2, I'm just like, no, I don't care. And I would just skip until the part when everything's fine again and be like, okay, who got injured? Great. Moving on.
That would be why you don't think this has a plot.
I mean, like, I know there's a plot. I know that there's like a whole thing with that, and those are like the part of the main villains, whatever. But I'm like, I'm just not here for it.
Yeah.
Or the quarantine in the book.
Fuck that. Okay, so I was the one that was reading it for people that are like watching. I was the one that was reading it and was ahead of everybody else. And I was like, y'all, there's a fucking quarantine, and they're all like, no! But at least it was a quarantine, and they could all still hang out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was still like, what the fuck? Yeah. Because the last 2 books we've read now have had like some kind of disease epidemic and then a quarantine, which is just personally fucked up.
I hate that for us. I'm gonna take another half a star off. The whole like demon grandfather thing. Also, I don't know. I thought it was weird. I just said that it should have been like less Tessa and Will. But the fact that he was like, oh yeah, I saw our demon grandfather, and Tessa was like, cool. Like, weird reaction for her to be like, yeah. I don't want to do it
for a while.
Now we know.
Yeah. The thing that like makes it weird too is because it's her dad. So it's like, and it's like, so why is everyone being like, oh, blah, 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 this is so bad that he has these powers? It's like, y'all have known that she's had these things. Like, what do you mean? Like, so I think it's weirdly she'll choose to like put emphasis on certain things that I'm like, this shouldn't matter at this point because you guys have known about this for a while. So
Correct.
Yeah, like Tessa can literally like what
never die.
You can turn into
anyone
anyone.
and also like get their memories or something.
Something.
Yeah.
So like that seems way more dangerous than him being able to see the shadow realm.
Right. Right. And then like the ghost
Lucy's
stuff.
power is going to be?
Stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, Lucy. Ooh.
What do you think Lucy's power is going to be?
Okay, wait.
We already know.
We already know, yeah.
But like, if she
I loved it. I loved her powers when she was talking and all the girls were like, woo. I was like,
Yeah.
is she going to control a dead army?
yes.
Hmm?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool though. I like.
She was like,
I mean,
Jesse,
her
take me
power.
to my brother.
What that's just weird is like her power seems more powerful than his. So
Yes.
it's like, why are they targeting him when she's the one that's more like powerful anyway? So I just think it's weird. But again, people who've read the rest of the series, do Herondales always have like crazy powers because they have this in their bloodline now? Like, is this a thing besides the ghost seeing, which is just a thing they have anyway?
No,
That nobody
Jace's powers
explained.
are totally
Yeah.
unrelated to him being a Herondale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that at the end when Lucy like was commanding Jesse around or whatever and was like gonna go and that she was also gonna go into the Shadow Realm and it would be like her and her brother standing up against their grandfather. But Lucy was criminally underused, I think.
Yeah.
And on top of being like kind of written really weird and unevenly and young, she has the better power, but she was not used enough at all because she just shows up and she's like, oh. And then, I was like, so then why have her have this moment of like being a badass and like ordering this ghost to like zoom her away and then just for her to show up and be like, oh
Mhm.
Or
The
like
ones
the change of clothes. I'm useful.
The number
I
of
think
times she was like, "Oh no, Cordelia, do you want an Arazzi?"
no. That's literally all she did.
Like, I'm the worst parabatai ever.
They're not even Parabatai yet either. So I'm just like, calm down, guys.
I do think that that's going to be something that gets addressed because throughout the book, she's constantly having to be like, I'm here too. I'm a Herondale too. Like
Right.
she is constantly pointing herself out. So I think that's something that will get addressed later
I think
on.
it'll probably be like she'll have a book, right? Because like this book was like Cordelia's book, and then one of the next books will be like Lucy's, but you know where like that's her main arc is going to be happening. So I think that she's going to be, because of the three, I think they're each probably going to have like a book that more focuses on them, and she'll have one, and then she'll be like, I'm powerful too. And I think actually, Mari, that like maybe at the very end with the actual plot stuff, that James and Cordelia might pair up as like power siblings to like take down the bad guys.
You mean
Can
James
James
and-
even use his
James
power
and
anymore?
Lucy, sorry, and Cordelia will be there too. Well, Cordelia has to be there because she has that magical sword that like can do the most damage. You know,
That
so
was like James's bracelet in terms of like reminding us that it was there. And we were like, okay, we get it. The sword can cut through everything.
Cortana's Emma's sword in the Dark Artifices, and she's the main
Yeah.
character, so it's been around.
I was just gonna ask if Cortana continues.
Oh, yeah.
I assumed it did.
Cortana was featured heavily in.
I'm glad you guys are here for me to be like, so what happens later? I'm not gonna read them.
This wasn't a live show. It was like a live wiki session. Like, look it up.
Someone said that they do have some qualities that pass down the line. Jace's eyes are gold, etc.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, like-
no, I wasn't talking about like physical qualities
traits.
because
These are
that makes sense.
powers.
But yeah, like the magical powers that kind of tie
No.
into Shadowhunters. Well, then what's the point?
James's power is from something totally different, and
Yeah.
they don't talk about this demon line with Jace like at all.
So I wonder if she's
Yeah, that
gonna
is weird
get
that
being
doesn't-
like, wait, now it's
Yeah.
because of this. You know?
Yeah.
I'm
we think
interested to
that
see if
Cassie's
James can even use his power now that the Shadow Realm is gone.
But he's a
Maybe.
stealer of worlds, so he'll be able to go to other worlds now. Ooh.
Right, and James will probably. But do we think that Cassie's going to keep making series like after this one? Is she going to make a series with like these people's kids?
There's just one more
One
planned.
more
No,
after
she's dead.
TA.
One more planned.
Oh, and then
Yeah.
she's done.
Then
I don't
she's
believe
done.
I don't believe it for a second.
I found out that her real name is like Judy or Judith. So
Yeah.
Judith, no, you're lying. That's false.
Yeah, the final book is following characters from TDA.
Yep.
Yeah, the final series.
Same.
I just hope that they'll move it into a different part of
Sorry.
the world and start following other families. Like she kind of has started introducing, like I think what are they Persian? What are they?
These-
The
Persian?
Parsers?
Yeah.
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 So like I think that she'll move into a different area of the world and just
Where
start
they are?
She's starting to bring in other things like mermaids and stuff like that haven't been as big a part of the series so far. So I think that's where she'll shift. I don't believe that she's done.
No. Why would you be done? Keep making money, girl.
I would not be done either, especially if all you got to do is like just name every other character you've ever written before in one book and make it 600 pages, and everybody's like, "Yay!" Do that forever, girlfriend.
Seriously, you're saying.
All right. Anything else that we did not mention about?
Someone asked about the bracelet, about if James will lose his powers. I don't think so. The bracelet is
Different.
is
with
demons
James.
control. James has his powers are separate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any theories or things we hope to happen, Kayla?
Yeah, I don't know. We talked a lot about stuff. I have notes, but yeah, I got nothing right
Kayla, now is your time to do your theories.
Bring it on.
Good moment.
I'm like, I feel like really like spit on the spot. Jordan, can you help me out here?
What is your theory? I will.
No, I
collaborate with you.
desperately want to know because I want to see if
If
I
unfolds.
agree.
Well, we already know Sam was like your hopes were Anna and no. Did you say something about wanting?
I mean, I want everyone to kiss that wants to. So like Anna and Cordelia, I would love them to kiss at some point. Matthew and Cordelia kissing. James, really, I just want Cordelia to have like a really good time. So like that's what I'm here for. Those are the main ones that I want to kiss.
Okay.
Personally,
I think,
and then I think that James and Lucy and Cordelia will like all team up to do like the takedown. That's what I think.
I'm excited about the fake marriage because that trope.
I love fan art.
Oh,
I'm so excited.
And
so
also,
good.
And there's two.
I think like Magnus or somebody's gonna figure out that bracelet. Like somebody's gonna take it off and be like, have this moment, maybe in book 2. I hope in book 2.
Is like Cordelia gonna cut it off with Cortana?
That's what happened in this book, but
For real.
And her hair is going to be like flowing while she does.
I love it.
It might be during. She might do that sword dance again and cut it off at the end.
Okay, there were so many moments
A
with
sexy
that
sword
dance.
dance.
The dance, as soon as she was like, I'm getting up there, I was like, God bless.
Yeah.
Because that's always like one of the best scenes in like YA fantasy romance type books. And then as soon as she stood up and was like, we were together, I'm like, they're gonna get married. Like
When she stood up and she's like, I was with him all last night. I was freaking dying. I don't know why. I just thought it was so funny. Like, can you imagine being there?
absolutely not. I
Gasps.
was red and just like embarrassed for her, but in that moment I was like, you're gonna get fake married. Like immediately.
I'm really excited to see how they bring Jesse back.
Back to life.
Because right now he's the only option for like the Blackthorn line to continue. So he has to come back to life somehow.
And it's interesting because, not to bring it up again, but in the Dark Artifices, there's a huge necromancy storyline with the Blackthorn. So I'm like,
yeah, they love their necromancy. That whole family.
But I do wonder because obviously they got rid of the breath, which was what they were like hinging on. So like, but I would probably
Will that affect?
Lucy will
change
use
at
her
all?
death magic, right?
I hope so.
imagine if it's just her going, Jesse, I can be back.
I will die if like that's legitimately what it does because I wouldn't be
Put it past
surprised.
Yeah.
I wonder if James will have any consequences of having that breath put into his body.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. I kind of feel like he won't.
No?
You know, like I just kind of feel like it'll be like
They'll just move on with their lives
I
and be
feel like
fine.
the breath was the way to like heal James. He's
Yeah.
like, now I'm expelling the poison from my body.
yeah, and then it's over.
Yeah. They're like, okay, we're good now. My broken leg will be healed in 2 days.
My only hope and dream for book 2 is that it is less than 500 pages.
It's gonna
Yeah,
be more.
I agree. Yeah.
Let that go.
I'm hoping that the second one is shorter and then the third one will probably be really long.
I don't like when they do that either, though.
I know.
I'd rather it just be all the same if you're gonna do that.
I
But
feel
it's
like
they're gonna
it's
get
so long because there's 12 characters. So at the end, you have to address everybody's ending and it goes on forever.
Hopefully she starts killing them off.
she
It doesn't
She
kill
won't,
her.
but I hope.
Grace.
She doesn't kill her.
For real. This needs to go.
But she'll get her redemption kill in like the final book, probably.
For sure. She'll save the day and then she'll be remembered.
What?
Did you want to share any of your theories?
Any more that we haven't addressed?
I don't really have theories.
We've addressed a lot of theories, to be honest.
I know.
Yeah.
kissing.
I think. Is there anything else?
I don't think so.
All right.
We did it.
We did it.
Hey.
I didn't do it. I read most of this book this morning.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you for finishing
Yeah,
it.
I'm proud that you gave it 2 stars. I'm very proud of the 2 stars.
Yeah, like I said, it's not Twilight, so that's fine.
Like yesterday you had 500 pages and then today you finished.
How was the audiobook?
Huh?
How was the audiobook? The narrator?
It was good. The narrator was good. There were a couple voices. I think part of the reason that I read Lucy Young is that she used a very young voice for Lucy. She did like a high pitched like thing. And it made it even worse when she's like, I'm gonna write this in my stories about Cordelia. Man, are you sick? But otherwise, all of the Will voice is really interesting too, because I guess he's like Welsh.
Yeah.
So I came on, I was like, but yeah, with like as many characters, it wasn't like super good at differentiating it wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't the best that I heard in terms of like mimicking, but it was enough that when the people were speaking, I was like, okay, this is a different character at least. You know, I was already having so many problems keeping track of everybody, but the narrator did a pretty good job. Oh, sorry. Yeah. The only other thing that we always do at the end of these live shows is announce our book for the next month. I'm going to let Sam do it. And then she also has some exciting information that goes along with what our book for next month will be. So,
yeah. So our book for next month is The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. And we will actually be doing a giveaway for this. The publisher is working with us for a giveaway. We are not sponsored in any way. They're not paying us any coin. They're just going to be giving you giving away one digital copy. So that I know a lot of people have been messaging us about concerns about getting books for the book club next month. So there's a digital copy that they're going to give away. So to enter that, go to our Twitter, which is linked in the description, but it's House Salt Club. Subscribe to or like follow us on Twitter, and then I will put out a post about this within the next hour or so, and then retweet that, and that's how you enter. So special thanks to the publisher for doing that, because that's super nice. And so we'll be doing that, and then we'll be also announcing the live show date for that officially coming up probably sometime this week, because I don't think we've quite decided schedule-wise.
Cool. Well, that is it. Thanks for watching and for joining us and for listening to all of our opinions.
Is everyone going to read the sequel?
Yeah, who's reading the sequel?
Yeah.
I'll read the sequel.
Yeah, I will.
Maddie's like, no.
Maddie's like, no.
I complained so much while I was reading this that I feel like if I read it, you guys would be like, oh my God, Maddie. The first 100 pages, I did most of my complaining during the first 100 pages. After that, I like flew by and it was fine. So like I might only for Cordelia, but also in a couple weeks, I'll probably be like,
Right.
Yeah.
Once you're out of it.
Great, thank you. All right. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you next month when we read The Glass Hotel.
Bye.
Bye.